Alright, what is up guys? Welcome back to another Path of Exile 2 video here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly in the upcoming major content patch for PoE 2 0.3, or as they are calling it, the Third Edict. So, I want to take a little bit of time here and we're going to look at what I would say is good in this patch, what's not so good, and then what's just flat out bad. I think there's a mixture here. There's definitely some huge wins, but then there's also some things that I just feel like are definitely missing from this patch that kind of surprised me. So first off, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, really appreciate it. Helps me out. We hit 1,400 subs recently. Now we're going to go for 1,500. So looking at this patch, here's kind of a breakdown of what is in this patch. So we've got Act 4. They did do what I thought they would do and get rid of cruel difficulty. I had hoped and kind of assumed that the way they would do that is to release the final 3 acts at the same time. Instead, we've got Act 4, and then we've got 3, basically what they're calling interlude acts. And they explained it as just basically like side stories that will be in the final version of the game, not, you know, in the same form that they will be in this patch, but they're going to basically take the place of cruel difficulty when you add in Act 4 and these interlude acts. So we've got Rise of the Abyssal, new league mechanic, which if you remember Abyss from PoE 1, it's kind of like the underground undead monsters that come out. They're kind of, you know, got this green tint to them. So Abyss I thought was a great mechanic, and it looks like it's going to be great in this game as well. The new crafting mechanic is kind of like the veiled items from PoE 1, where when you use this crafting mechanic, you get 3 or 4 options to choose from, and then some of the crafting options are also not available any other place. So that's cool. Some of these class changes, you know, we'll look at that later on down in the patch notes, or, you know, vague notes that we've got here. So they've reworked the support gem system and added in a new type of support gem, which is basically an in-game support gem. These lineage gems here that they're talking about. They've got a new trade mechanic, which I think is going to be fantastic. There is sprinting, which is also fantastic. New in-game maps, that's great. New in-game encounters, some crafting changes. So these are all huge wins. I would say that is all the good. So looking at the league mechanic here in depth, basically, you know, we're gonna fight the fishers, the same fishers from PoE 1, and then you're also going to be able to get the troves, get the items, and then also go potentially underground from some of them and fight the Abyssal directly. So that is cool. Some new major character balance, new skill gems. They've really reworked the mace gems, which for fire specifically added some new ones, reworked some other ones. So I do feel like fire builds are going to be in a much better place. I remember specifically they mentioned that warriors are really not going to need accuracy if the enemy is close to you. What that means exactly, I don't know. So I don't know if that makes like iron will, or sorry, iron, is it iron? It's not iron grip. Or sorry, resolute technique. Like, is that just basically, you know, a moot point at, you know, in this transition of the game? That used to be kind of a go-to staple for all my strength builds, just so you never miss. But if they basically said you're not going to need accuracy as a warrior in close combat anymore, whatever that means exactly. So I thought that that was somewhat interesting. Here's kind of a list of the new things that they've added. So that's all good. That's all great. Yeah, there's an Essence rework, so basically Essence is going to function now like a Regal and turn a magic into a rare item with a specific modifier guaranteed. So that is good. They said that there were just not enough Regals early on in the playthrough, so you don't really use them, and you also don't, you don't want to slam all your exalts on gear as you're leveling. So this, at least I'm assuming, is going to allow you to get a 4 mod item fairly easily. So you'll have a 2 mod magic item, and then you can use an Essence to apply a guaranteed mod, and then also get 1 more mod from it being upgraded into a rare item. So that, I think, is a huge win. And then looking at some of these other options, so sprinting, huge. Basically you dodge roll and then you go into a sprint, but if you get hit while you are sprinting, you will fall to the ground. And this was like, they displayed it, and it's a massive time where you're down on the ground. Basically, if you get hit and you're sprinting, you're probably dead. I don't know if you get any defensive like debuffs from it, or if you just basically lose control of your player character for several seconds. They did buff summons, so that's huge. Hopefully those are in a better place now. We are also going to be hopefully just in a much better place for all of the characters. It seemed like there were just buffs across the board. Not going to go into all of the nitty-gritty details here. So here's where they're talking a little bit about the accuracy. So here's the changes you had that I was talking about. So here we've got some more basically specific notes on the class or ascendancy changes. So let's take a look at these real quick on what we've got here. Warbringer, I don't think is played very much. I'm not really a fan of it. They did supposedly make it better with just more minions being summonable and the minions being buffed. Hopefully it's in a better place. Not really my playstyle, so I don't know a whole lot about it. And the Jade, stacks of Jade armor are better now. That was like really the only thing I felt like the class had going for it previously. So Smith of Kitava, I did play this class, and I'm curious what they changed here. So Flowing Metal notable passive skill now causes body armor to grant 35% of armor to also apply to elemental damage from hits. Previously caused body armor to grant +5, so that's pretty big. Leather Bindings notable passive now causes body armor to regenerate 3% of max life, so a little bit of a nerf there. Manifest Weapon skill granted by Living Weapon notable passive no longer grants minions from this skill have 1% increased accuracy per dexterity. Instead, they now have 1% increased attack speed. Okay. The small passive skills providing fire resistance now have a value of 8%, previously 15%, so a nerf. Okay. The small passive skill prior to Living Weapon now grants 5% increased strength instead of minions deal 20% increased damage. So that's better. I still don't know if Smith of Kitava is playable. I thought it was fairly underwhelming when I played it in the last patch, or the last update. Gimling Legionnaire is the class that I'm potentially looking at playing, because I have not yet played Gimling Legionnaire. I'm also considering playing a monk, because I have not played monk, even though I did play a staff build. I played a staff Smith of Kitava. And I think if I do play monk, I will probably be using the new fist weapon buff that they've added. So basically you can act as if you have a staff with your with just your fists. So that looked kind of interesting. we'll see though. I need to get a little more info on what, you know, is going to be in this patch in terms of like what I want to try and play and in theory craft out. So the advanced thaumaturgy notable passive no longer grants 30% less cost of skill, or skill gems have 30% more attributes. So I know one thing that Gimling Legionnaire that they changed overall with the new support gem rework is that there is no longer a limit of one support gem per, you know, per ability. You can now use as many as you want. They have different tiers, and then there's in-game ones. One thing that the Gimling Legionnaire had going for it was you could use 2 of each, so I don't know what they've changed. You can use each type of support gem an additional time. It now provides for each color of socketed gem that is most numerous gain red. Hits against you have no critical damage bonus. Blue, 30 skills have 30% less cost. Green, 40% less movement speed penalty from using skills while moving. I mean, I think clearly like red, you have no critical damage. Yeah, hits against you have no critical damage bonus. I think red is hands down like the best of those 3, but that's just my opinion. I'm not going to go through the rest of these. I was curious about Titan. Is there no changes to Titan? That's kind of surprising that there's just no changes whatsoever to the Titan. Interesting. There's been some major passive tree overhauls. Again, we're gonna have to just wait and see what that looks like. Lots of skill changes. I'm not gonna probably go through all of them. The only one I was really curious about is Supercharged Slam, because that was a skill that I felt like needed to be buffed. So, and it looks like they actually nerfed it, or no? 146 to 254% at gym levels 11, and now has 40% more damage with hits for each stage. So I can't really tell. Like, we would have to do some calculations here. It looks like you basically have more damage without fully charging it. So let's just do a little bit of quick math here. Let's bust out the calculator. So if we have, let's just for simplicity's sake say that there are 3 stages at 150% damage, and that would be 180% at fully charged. Oh gosh. So that would be 270 damage. If we have, let's say, 250% times, that would be 300. So I guess it is an overall damage buff, so that's good. Not a huge buff. It looks like about a 10% buff, at least at 3 stages. I think if it was at higher stages, you may actually be losing damage, because you can with the quality on the gym, you can get it up to like 5 or 6 stages. So let's do a calculation for if we were at 5 stages now. So 5 would be like 600 damage, and 250 would be. So okay, so I guess maybe it is just a total damage buff. So that's good. That's good. Okay, that makes me happy. I had hoped that it would be significantly more damage buff than it is, but whatever. So this is all good. Let's get down here. So as far as the trade changes go, the only, it's fantastic. We no longer have to be logged in. We can set up a shop that will sell your items for you, even when you're offline, even when you're in a map. You don't have to leave the map. You don't have to haggle with the player. You don't have to waste time going to the hideouts or waste a portal from your map to go back to your hideout to trade. So the amount of time saved is going to be phenomenal. Let's talk about the bad now. So the bad is that we basically have to get new stash tabs to be able to use this. And the only thing you can use those stash tabs for is the specific offline selling. Right now you have the option to change your premium stash tabs directly into these stash tabs. I don't know if they're going to cost the same yet or not. I haven't really looked into that. I don't know if it's been announced. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't know if it's worth it to switch them over or just to buy them. But kind of, I think a little annoyed that they had to create a new stash tab specifically for that, because there's already so many different kinds of stash tabs. Did we really need to have, we couldn't just use the premium stash tabs for this mechanic, or, something to that effect. So that's a little annoying. Some of the other bad is just that we didn't get the last final acts. I thought that, yeah, we got Act 4, but we did not get Act 5 or 6, so we will be left, again, without the end of the story, and we'll have to go through these interlude acts. It's basically setting it up to, we don't know when we'll get Act 5 or Act 6. If they maintain this pace of one act per major patch, we're looking at another 8 months before we get Act 6. So potentially in 4 months we could get Act 5, in another 4 months we could get Act 6, but also maybe we won't get the acts. We don't really know now when we'll get the Act 5 and 6 release. So that's bad. And, I think those are what I would just say is kind of bad. Now I want to talk about what I would consider just to be the ugly. So the ugly of this patch is that there is no new classes, no new ascendancies, no new weapons, and I think that's a huge problem. I don't think there's any new skills. There are only new support gems, so that's great. Love that there's some new support gems. There might be one new reworked skill on maces that they showed, but that's not saying a whole lot, unfortunately, and I don't really know why they did not release any new classes or any new weapons. I think that's a huge failure on their part. Okay, sorry. Okay, I take that back. There are 12 new skill gems. So I take that back. There's 12 new skill gems that I'm assuming are tied to the various weapons. And I just think that the failure to add a single weapon, new weapon type, and new class is a huge problem. So that means we're going to go another 4 months playing the same classes that we've been playing, with essentially the same skills that we've been playing, with just basically some new support gems. So, fortunately for myself, I've not played the game a ton yet, to where there aren't, some new things I could try. The only problem is that I really enjoy playing melee classes and melee builds, and I've already tried both of the melee weapons in the game. So I've played hammers and I've played stabs, and that's basically it. I don't play dex builds with like dual wielding knives, and I don't play builds with knives. So even if knives and daggers are in the game, like that's not like, you know, I'm sorry, I don't consider that a melee weapon, unfortunately. So that just kind of leaves me wondering, you know, what do I really want to play? I mean, the fist weapons sound cool, but it's the same skills that I've already used with the staff. So it doesn't really give me like a new play style that I can try, or like a new build that I can theory craft that I haven't already theory crafted. Same thing with the hammers. Like, yeah, there's a new passive tree, but the passive tree doesn't, for the most part, really affect, you know, how the character plays outside of like stats. So no new weapons, no new skills outside of these 12 new skill gems. And the way they want you to combo your skills, it's not like the 12 new skill gems are going to be groundbreaking, earth-shattering changes to the game. So to me, this is just not good. You know, we're going to have to rehash basically the same gameplay outside of that. We have, you know, a couple new areas to explore and a couple new support gems to basically at end game utilize. And that I don't think is really gonna carry me through for another 4 months. Like, you know, I'm definitely gonna play it, I'm definitely gonna check it out, but I'm hoping I don't really get burnt out quickly. But you know, it's potentially gonna dry up, you know, pretty quickly for me. So I just don't know. Like, the other thing I could think of is like trying to play a caster this season, just because that would be new. But even that, like, casters to me, just there's not really any spells in the game that get me kind of excited to try and play them. So we'll have to see, but let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this patch. What are you excited about? What are you not excited about? Hopefully they're, you know, hopefully they've got some new classes that they're going to put out soon. I think the game is just severely lacking in a couple of the archetypes, and definitely in the weapons category. Like, we need another melee weapon. We need either swords or axes. I could see that, like, spicing up the game to potentially make melee builds a lot more fun, because you could come up with potentially some interesting interactions through weapon swapping and the dual skill tree. But right now, like, there's not really the option, because with the two melee weapons being complete opposite stats, it would not really function or work to be switching between stabs and hammers, because hammers are pure strength and stabs are dex/int requirements. So I don't think that would really work or be strong or be feasible. So hopefully we get some new stuff, in the next patch, but again, that's 4 months away. So to me, that's just not good. That's really bad, in my opinion. They really needed to add something new from a class perspective, from a weapon perspective, and I think this was a big drop on GGG's part. Like, I think had they included at least a new class, I would call this a very good, solid patch, major content patch. But right now we have half the classes, and I'm guessing like half or less of the weapon types. So just a little very disappointed in that regards. I think with all of the good things that are coming in this patch, they really just dropped the ball by not adding a new class, by not adding a new weapon. I think if they had done one or both of those things, there would be enough new content here to really like fully enjoy it to the extent that I would like to. But without that newness of the type of gameplay that I enjoy, as far as like melee goes, I'm gonna have to really like look at it and see what I can figure out that would be interesting to me, because I don't like playing glass cannons. I don't like playing ranged characters. There are some caster types that I think are cool and fun to play, but it's typically not my cup of tea, because I like to be in the melee, tanking stuff, just smashing things, and I don't know if I want to play hammers again, and I don't know if I don't really want to play stabs again, even though fists are cool. I don't really like the staff moveset that much, and fist weapons are just basically you can use stabs. So, but I'm starting to rant, guys, so thanks for tuning in, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and remember to give them the D.